I'm Jenna.
Hello, I'm Gloria.
We are Worthy Wellness
because we are worth it.
Our purpose is to introduce women entrepreneurs, products, and services while proceeds help women in need for holistic care and therapy services.
Welcome, ladies.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on our Worthy Wellness podcast. We have the pleasure of interviewing Jill. She's our international interviewee. I'm so excited. Jenna and I are so excited to interview Jill today. So, hi, Jill. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited for this podcast because, we're international now. So how do you like that? I love it.
It always starts with one.
That's right. Exactly. So you are number one. I love it. So we're going to start off with some great questions. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met Jenna?
So I am a physiotherapist and I work in Sydney. I have been practicing for about 8 years now, and that's kind of how I met Jenna. So I studied in Sydney, and Jenna was also studying at the same time as me at Sydney University. And basically she lived with a guy that I was friends with that I was studying with. And that's how I came to meet Jenna. So she was living with my friend Justin, and then I got to know Jenna, and I got to know Courtney, who was also living with her, and the rest is history.
That's pretty amazing. I love it. I love how divine timing just kind of brings people together. And are you originally from Sydney? Where are you from?
Yes, I haven't told you much about myself. So no, I am from Canada. I am from kind of the middle of nowhere, Canada. My parents live currently in Calgary, but I grew up in the Midwest, and then I lived in the Arctic Circle for a little bit, and then I left to go to university in Edmonton. So since leaving Edmonton, that's kind of where I had my undergrad in science or kinesiology, and tried to figure out what I could do with that for a bit. And then ended up working in a return to work kind of center in Red Deer. And it was from there that I kind of was like, you know what, I want more. I want to be the boss, and I want to go to university again. So I packed my bags and I moved to Sydney.
Wow. And why Sydney? What called you to Sydney, Australia?
So I had a few friends who were studying at the University of Queensland in Brisbane, and they kind of had said, oh, it's really fun. Like, it's fun to kind of live overseas, obviously, for a couple of years. It's pretty easy to get all the paperwork and stuff that you need to come and study overseas. Obviously, it's costly, but it makes things a bit easier in terms of getting in, because physio programs in Canada, there are not very many of them. So they're very, very competitive to get into. So I did look at starting to try and get into one in Alberta. But in the meantime, I applied to Sydney Uni and I got in, and I just said, you know what? It's meant to be. I'm going to go.
And I like the fact that you've got this great story, because our listeners are going to be able to hear this and say, I think that's something I might want to do. You've got a young girl just starting out, going to school, to college, but hearing someone with your background that's done traveling, that's studying, and decide to go abroad and just do something different in a whole different country and explore. I love that. I really, really like that. I think that's very motivating, especially for a lot of young women right now. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, like it's not an easy choice. And everyone who lives abroad, I think, goes through these waves of loving it, hating it, being content, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's a really good experience to do, even if you just do it for a year or a working holiday, to kind of just learn a lot about yourself and how you kind of respond to stress and kind of being out of your comfort zone a little bit. But it helps you just grow as a person, I think, generally. I mean, right. I didn't think I was going to be here a decade later, but I still am.
And do you have your own physical practice there?
I haven't started my own business or anything. I recently have started a new job with a neurosurgeon. So I'm working with clients who either have had some sort of neck or back surgery, some kind of brain stuff as well. So they've either had surgery or not having surgery because they don't need it, and then just kind of helping them with their rehab process. So conservative management or post-operative management or a pre-op assessment. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Prior to that, I worked in other private practices. I started kind of doing a bit of sports stuff, and then I realized that that's long hours and really demanding and not quite for me. And then just continued to work in private practice to kind of find and hone kind of the right niche, I guess, that I'm interested in.
Oh, I love that. That's great. And obviously, there has to be a big difference between countries versus Canada versus Australia. I mean, there has to be, I would think, right? And just the way they do their processes there.
I mean, I don't think it's too different. So I worked at a few clinics as kind of an exercise therapist before I moved overseas. So in Canada, I guess the biggest difference I found, which I don't think this happens in all practices, and this again was like 10 years ago, that some clinicians are seeing multiple patients at the same time. Whereas you don't find any clinics like that here. It's all, you know, you've got your appointment, you're coming, you've got your initial assessment for an hour. All of the time is undivided and given to you. And then, you know, when you have your next review, it's 30 minutes and that's all divided just to you. And it's not divided amongst a few people kind of bouncing around back and forth. I guess with that, we don't really have any aides that work with us. So I don't have a physiotherapy aide who can put on machines for me or that sort of thing. But generally as a physio, and I think as a, I guess as a therapy, they're kind of moving away from some of those modalities anyways, because it's not really that evidence-based.
And I think the patient itself, you know, when you're able to do the one-on-one or spend a little bit more time, they really take that to heart. You know, they really feel like, okay, you're giving me time and your energy and I'm really going to heal, because I see that every day where I work.
Yeah. No, I think it's really important to develop that rapport and really get that trust from the client, and that you're going to that you've got their best interest at heart, I guess, and that you're trying to do the best thing.
That's great. I mean, I am glad to hear that, you know, the difference of when they have aids or not, and then how you have undivided attention. I think the biggest thing as a former English teacher, ESL teacher, physiotherapy versus physical therapy, the spelling of that. And as you know, too, like depending on where you're from, is it Canada, is it the UK, is it Australia? Or America. So I noticed the difference in spelling and pronunciation.
Yes.
So I know you were telling us that you recently got a job. Congratulations with that neurosurgeon.
Thank you.
Would you like to walk us through your background and the journey of, you know, the different targeted populations or specialties?
Yeah, sure. So I guess like my first kind of new grad job was more so in kind of an orthopedics practice. So I worked obviously with a couple other physios, and then on the other side of the clinic there was a couple of orthopedic specialists for kind of knees and shoulders. So I kind of had that first taste, I guess, of working with a specialist and seeing how having that collaboration with someone close by is actually really valuable and a valuable tool for your clients. So from there I kind of learned, I guess, one thing I guess that's different, which I'm only thinking about now between Canada and Australia, is you can get a lot more imaging and quite easily. So I can order an MRI and I can see it as soon as the patient has it on the computer, and I can have a look at it and kind of decide, oh yeah, this is what's going on, and that lines up with how they're presenting. Whereas in Canada, you have to sit on a wait list because it's public health. So there's private public, I guess, division here in Australia, which makes it a little bit more accessible. So yeah, in that first practice, that's kind of where I honed those skills a little bit. And then I moved practices and I started working within a private hospital, but still in a private practice. And that was more of those orthopedic specialists. So not just knees and shoulders, there was ankles, there was a variety, and they're just down the hall. So if you had a good enough relationship with them, you'd be like, hey, do you mind just looking at the scan? I think they need to see you. What do you think? Yes or no? And kind of giving you that advice. So all of a sudden kind of having that kind of consult of a patient without actually the patient having to book in for that consult. And then as part of that practice, I was working with an Australian football team. So Aussie rules is a unique sport to Australia, obviously, in that it's like a 360-degree game. They're not wearing a helmet. They're not wearing any protective equipment other than, their footy boots and a mouth guard, and
Mhm.
they're handballing the ball to each other, kicking the ball, trying to score goals and all of that. So I was the head physio for that team for a couple of seasons, and it was really hard work and presented its own set of challenges. It really helped me kind of learn that I wanted to kind of lead a team and work with a bunch of junior students that were in their second year undergrad to kind of help hone their skills and really teach them how to be a good clinician and how to do some good on-field management, whether it's just first aid or it's like, oh, look, like this person's ruptured their ACL. This is what it looks like when it's just happened. So I really enjoyed that aspect. And then from there, I went on to be a clinic manager at another private practice. So I got to work on that leadership piece a little bit longer. And then from there, I started working at another private practice, which is called Keyser. And that was a bit more strength training focused. But again, a bit more on that spinal sort of health. And that's kind of what's led me into what I'm doing now.
Amazing. It's so inspiring. And I love therapy because you can just have so many different targeted groups and evolve throughout your career and the span of working in our field. Do you see an area that you are passionate about? It sounds like there's a lot of athletes, but now maybe there's more like medical based, like surgical.
Yeah, so I did do a lot of athletic, I guess, populations or just weekend warrior kind of people for the first probably 3 or 4 or 5 years of my career, I guess. And now, I'm working more with an elderly population. But just because they're elderly doesn't mean they don't have hopes and dreams and they don't want to do other things than just sit in front of the TV. So it's interesting because it's got that added complexity of, yes, they've had a knee replacement, or yes, they've had back surgery, but they also have these other comorbidities on top of it. And, once we get them up and moving and we get like a targeted plan in place, it can really make a difference to someone's life. And I think that's the thing I find the most rewarding is I never really got into physio because I wanted to be the hotshot sports physio. I just got into it because I really wanted to help people have a good life, whether they're 30 years old or whether they're 80 years old. Like I've got a client who's 90 and she's amazing and super inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met a therapist that wasn't compassionate. And I feel like we all have passion for what we do because it takes a lot for us to have the energy and to be able to do this acts of service and a way of healing, right? And so I just find that that's what we have in common.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we got connected in the first place.
Maybe.
And then, the biggest question I get, because I'm working with geriatrics now is, I don't even know the difference between OT and PT, and they always call me PT. And so I'm wondering in Australia if it's different, because here in America, when I'm in Medicare geriatric home health setting, they tell me, okay, OT focuses on upper body and PT focuses on lower body. Would you say that's in a nutshell how you would explain it, or is that different in Australia?
I think depending, because obviously most OTs will work either for a private kind of home health service like you are, or they'll be working in a hospital. So I think depending on what hospital you work at or what team you're working with in a private setting, I think you guys divide and conquer and decide how you're going to do that, which is fine. The way I work with OTs, which is not common for myself in the private practices I've worked in, is the OT might be involved in going to their home and doing a home assessment of some sort because they're coming back from hospital and they're going to need a rail, or they need help getting out of the toilet. Or one of my clients yesterday actually was telling me how he was really excited about this device that you put in the door and then it helps you get out of the car and he doesn't have to twist. And so hearing these like really unique and fun gadgets that kind of help improve somebody's quality of life and allow them to kind of return home without having to worry about injuring themselves or needing that care from their loved one or their carer, because they can have that bit more independence, is kind of how I see OT works.
Adaptive equipment.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's really amazing what they can come up with and how they can really problem solve and work around those issues that people would have into going back home.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to having a holistic approach where it's kind of going hand in hand to have both PT and OT, and you usually see both therapists on a caseload because we're beneficial in two different aspects.
Yeah.
OT more functional and hitting goals like maybe with their hobbies, like wanting to garden again, but maybe they have paralysis in the hand after a stroke, and then PT is kind of addressing that hand function, and then OT is applying it into that goal. So I'm trying to paint the picture for the listeners.
That's exactly it. That's exactly how I see it. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see here. Is there anything before we kind of wrap it up that you would like to share about your journey? It could be anything, not necessarily PT. It could just be you being a Canadian. Do you have dual citizenship in Australia? Do you have two,
I
or
do.
how does that work?
Yeah. I've been an Aussie citizen since 2019. So yeah, I've got 2 passports. So I have 2 passports that I have to renew. I don't know. I don't have anything specific. I think it's just more of I remember just before I made this big leap, I was really excited and scared all at the same time. And I kind of was like, oh, is this going to be the right choice? You never know if it's going to be the right choice, and you kind of just have to just jump in with both feet and hope for the best, and know that even if it doesn't turn out the way I guess that you think it's going to, that you're still going to evolve and you're going to learn something from it, learn something about yourself, learn about different things that you can do, and it's going to open up your horizons to meeting other people that help you along the way.
Wow, that's very inspiring. I loved listening to everything about this interview, and I think there's just an awesome announcement that I'm just so eager to share. So the way that Jill and I got reconnected is she is going to help explain and to teach the physical therapy side of things for respiratory care. And in Australia, she was just letting me know that they don't have respiratory therapists. So that was quite interesting to hear the difference as well. And so that leads me to say that if there's not specialties in that respiratory care therapists in certain countries and remote areas or cities, towns, and what have you, that this phone app is going to be accessible worldwide, just like this podcast is to help reach those that have respiratory conditions like COPD, lung cancer, pulmonary fibrosis, and what have you. So it's going to be super excited, Jill, for you to come on board for that respiratory care and that multidisciplinary approach. And yeah, I just wanted to share the good news.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting.
Wonderful. Yes, how exciting. It's going to be great. There's so many people out there right now that could really use your services. We're seeing more and more of our population with respiratory issues for a plethora of reasons, many reasons. But I think what Jill, you and Jenna are going to be doing is so needed, first of all, but it's going to be beneficial to many patients, but also family members that are having to care for them as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's really exciting. And yeah, when I was doing some preliminary research, I haven't found anything like that out there. So I'm really excited to do this with Jenna. I think it'll be really fun.
Yay. So if people want to get a hold of you, Jill, did you want to share contact information? Because this is exciting. I mean, we're tapping in worldwide.
I guess the best way to get in contact with me would probably be via my email. So it's Gillian, GILLIANNE.Bechard, BECHARD @gmail.com.
That's a wrap, you guys. I hope you get to contact Jill. She has lots to teach you and a amazing background and very skillful physiotherapist, and also known as physical therapist.
Thank you so much, Jill, for your time. We appreciate it. We know you're just working hard to help others, and we greatly appreciate that. So thank you so much for giving us your time today. It was an honor to talk to you.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. If you're also a woman entrepreneur to support our cause and would like to be considered on this podcast, please reach out to us. We would love to connect. We see you. We want to connect, empower, and inspire others. So please call or text or even fax 949-793-8781 or our Instagram is Worthy Wellness Inc., like INC. Hope to hear from you, and thank you for listening.